And it's time to get to the business news now with Nicholas Poynton. Nicholas, the business team's been talking to New Zealand banks about, they were named in a global FinCEN leak. What have they been saying?
Yeah, so as what we know so far is that 3 New Zealand banks have been caught up in the tangle of banks globally that have been accused of being complicit in money laundering. So it's been a big story internationally, and as people probably already know, this information was made public through a leak of what are called FinCEN files, and banks use these to flag or report behaviour that they might find concerning, but there's no concrete evidence that there's any criminal activity or wrongdoing going on. So these 2,500 documents, they were leaked to BuzzFeed News and also the investigative international consortium of international journalists, and they named the BNZ Bank, ASB and ANZ. So RNZ's business team, we put calls to all those banks yesterday, and we finally got some replies today. So BNZ, who were shown to have sent $78,000 to a bank in Taiwan, they had their transactions flagged by a US intermediary. They've come out and said that they went back to those payments, which were made between 2011 and 2013. They've reviewed them, and they're actually okay with them. They say that they stand by their processes at the time and say that that there is nothing there to really cause any concern for them. ASB, on the other hand, they received $1.54 million from China Merchants Bank. Now, in their statement, they didn't explicitly acknowledge that these transactions had occurred. They just, in their statement, said that they're committed to reducing money laundering both in New Zealand and abroad. ANZ as well, we haven't actually heard from them. So if they are listening, we do look forward to hearing their response because there are some sort of serious questions that have been put to these banks. But to really put it in perspective, the New Zealand banks that have been named in this is relatively or comparatively small fry to some of the reports we're hearing overseas, but there is still a high level of public interest in what's going on here.
Okay. And speaking of money, New Zealanders apparently hate talking about money, and it appears it's causing a bit of tension in households.
Yeah, so this new survey out today from the Commission for Financial Capability, it shows that 1/5 of New Zealanders are experiencing problems in their relationships due to financial stress. The data shows that people with little or no income, they've talked about having they're the most likely to experience these sorts of issues, but it appears that having more money doesn't mean the problems go away. The survey shows that 21% of respondents who earn between $150,000 and $200,000 a year reported that there were tensions at home over money. So I spoke to Tom Hartman from the Commission today. He says one of the main issues, one of the things that really causes issues here is that New Zealanders, we're not very good at talking about money. It's often seen as quite a taboo topic, and sometimes people can treat it as being quite vulgar to speak about money openly. And he says that, for one thing, that people don't really have much experience about talking about money, about talking with their significant other about what they value spending their money on, what their priorities are, how they're saving or their attitudes to saving. So he says that this is one area that New Zealanders could just be frank and open about, and it's a really important way to reduce stress. One of the bright spots of this survey is, according to the data, financial stress in relations does seem to drop off as you age. It seems that as you get older, a lot of those big financial decisions you may have to make in relationships seem to see, as they get put behind you, like taking out a mortgage, seem that stress begins to reduce. But alarmingly, and this sort of is what really stood out to me, is that Māori and Pacifica people, they had the highest rates of interpersonal issues among the ethnic groups surveyed. And the Commission says that this is because these groups tend to have high levels of debt and lower incomes. So the Commission, they've used this survey to really talk up some of the advice and the tools it has on its websites. But at the end of the day, the grim reality is that these tools really do nothing for people who have these structural issues when they just are dealing with high levels of stress and pressure when it comes to debt, and they're not getting enough money coming through the door.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what's been going on the markets today?
So the NZX Top 50 had a bit of a roller coaster today. It was in early trading and it really fell off, but it really picked up over the course of the day, and it's up 0.5% or by 70 points to 11,609. Our dollar is at 66.6 US cents, 92.4 Australian, 52.0 British pence, and gold closed down way down overnight last night, but it's opened up and it's up to 1,914 US dollars an ounce.
Thanks, Nicholas. Nicholas Poynton with our business news there.